So I guess we can go ahead and start now. August might be in later, I'm not sure. But it should be fine. So we did go a bit past 10, but last time I was kind of like cutting out, and I'm not really sure like if I don't I guess it's up to you guys if you should like redo like the last couple ones. I'd be willing to start again at 10, if that's okay.
I think we should. They're really good. They're really good anyways. So
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Um, and my stream is working fine. It's apparently at 1440p, which is kind of crazy for this, but I guess that's fine. Okay, so number 10. Germans understand me immediately when I say that philosophy has been corrupted by theologian blood. The Protestant minister is the grandfather of German philosophy. Uh, Protestant, Protestant, sorry, Protestantism itself is a peccatum original definition of Protestantism, the partial paralysis of Christianity and of reason. You only need to say Tübingen Seminary to understand just what German philosophy really is, an underhanded theology. The Swabians are the best liars in Germany. They lie with perfect innocence. Why did the world of German scholars, three-quarters of whom are pastors and teachers' sons, go into each fit go into such fits of delight at the appearance of Kant? Why were Germans so convinced? You can still find echoes of this conviction, that Kant marked a change for the better. The theologian instinct of the German scholar had guessed just what was possible again. A hidden path to the old ideal lay open. The concept of a true world, the concept of morality as the essence of the world. The two most vicious errors in existence were once again, thanks to an exceedingly canny skepticism, if not provable, then at least not no longer refutable. Reason, the right of reason, does not extend that far. Reality was made into mere appearance. A complete lie called the world of being was made in sorry, a complete lie called the world of being was made into a reality. Kant's success is just a theologian success. Kant, like Luther, like Leibniz, was one was one more drag on an already precarious German sense of integrity. And to look at the footnotes, uh, Peccadum original is the original sin, and where's to Begenston Seminary, the seminary where both Hegel and Schelling received their secondary school education. Okay. So I think what he's saying is that he's asking why Germans were so convinced that like what Kant was bringing was for the better instead of just going back to like the old like old path of like there is a real world and the importance of morality, like the stuff they were trying to get away from, right? Does anyone have anything to add?
yeah, I just found my old copy. What was the which one was this? Which chapter?
This is number 10. This is in the PDF. It's page 50.
50. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Yeah. There was something about like the original sin. Penticum original,
Yeah,
and I don't even know how to put it. Like I remember in the last was it Klazowski reading with Brooks? He was talking about like the you don't have to have like there's like the platonic thing is like you need to have this like one perfect uh something to make you good, and Nietzsche's like totally like that's like the core of what Christianity is saying, and he's totally against that. And talking about like a true world, like our world is the fake world, and the the platonic type, the Christian type, wants to seek a fake like some other world and is not happy with this world.
yeah. I mean the like looking for like a I guess like a real or I don't is it like I think when he's talking about like a real world, he's saying like there's a like universal world that we can all that's like separate from like human experience, right? So I
Oh
mean
yeah,
I get
and
that's
yeah,
Yeah, the
and it
thing in
like
itself.
yeah, and like so much of this like German idealism is just like this Protestant LS, whatever.
when it's saying Protestantism itself is its original sin. Is that saying like Protestantism is like it's self-defeating? Is that kind of what it's saying? I can't really parse that.
Well, it's saying it's the original sin because it's
Unless
saying
there is,
that's where all of this thinking originates from, right?
okay,
The error in thinking is sort of fundamental to Protestant culture, is sort of what he's saying, right? Because he's saying this German idealism is an outgrowth of the uh, the Protestants, right?
yeah, makes sense. And he's saying Kant is kind of just going back to that instead of like, he's not offering something new or better. He's just going back to, and like kind of like making it more, like dressing it up as something like new, like good philosophy. But it's just going back to like
Yeah,
the original like German
formalized.
idealist.
It's
Yeah,
almost like he's like doubling down on Plato, like with a divided line between like here's the real things and like the fake things. That's how I kind of get
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And then
absolutely.
next one he just doubles down on like hating Kant, but that probably explains more.
in 11. Yeah,
Well, yeah, he's saying Kant is sort of bringing back this old distinction that should be done away with, right?
Yeah. I guess would you call it just like a dualism? Was there a technical term for
Yeah,
that?
dualism is, I think, probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so Nietzsche would be like a monoist, or I don't know what the words you would use.
understand.
Um, I would. It's a little questionable to call Nietzsche a monist. I would say he's a materialist, but you can call it,
No, materialist is probably better. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I guess I don't I it'd be hard to like read in like Nietzsche himself, but in like President Sunday's like Will to Power video, I think he does like talk about how he kind of like lends to monism. But yeah, I wouldn't like
yeah,
yeah.
but it's not. There's a lot. It depends on what you load into monism, so that's why I'm sort of cautious about using the term. Like, yes, but also not necessarily exactly in the style of Spinoza either. So it's, because monism has a lot of connotation. So he he believes in one material. That's why I use the term materialism, right? He believes in sort of one material, right?
Yeah.
C.S.
Uh,
Spinoza's.
um, yeah, but uh, whether that material has like one, yeah, it depends on what you load into it. Yeah, that's fine.
Hmm.
I guess I'll do number 11 now. Um, One more, one more word against Kant as a moralist. A virtue needs to be our own invention, our own most personal need and self-defense. In any other sense, a virtue is just dangerous. Whatever is not a condition for life harms it. A virtue that comes exclusively from a feeling of respect for the concept of virtue, as Kant would have it, is harmful. Virtue, duty, goodness in itself, goodness that has been stamped with the character of the impersonal and universally valid, those are fantasies and manifestations of decline, of the final exhaustion of life, of the Königsberg Chinesianity. Um, the most basic laws of preservation and growth require the opposite, that everyone should invent his own virtues, his own categorical imperatives. A people is destroyed when it confuses its own duty with the concept of duty in general. Nothing ruins us more profoundly or inwardly than impersonal duty or any sacrifice in front of the malach as abstraction. Sorry, of the malach of abstraction. To think that people did not sense the mortal danger posed by Kant's categorical imperative. The theologian instinct was was the only thing that came to its defense. When the instinct of life compels us to act, pleasure proves that the act is right. And this nihilist with the intestines of a Christian dogmatist saw pleasure as an objection. What could be more destructive than working, thinking, feeling without any inner need, any deeply personal choice, any pleasure? As an automaton of duty, it is almost a recipe for decadence, even for idiocy. Kant became an idiot, and this was a contemporary of Goethe. This disaster of a spider passed for the German philosopher, and still does. I am careful not to say what I think about the Germans. Wasn't it Kant who saw the French Revolution as a transition from the inorganic to the organic form of the state? Didn't he ask himself whether there was an event that could be explained only by moral predisposition in humanity, thus proving once and for all human tendency to goodness? Kant's answer: this is the revolution. The instinct that is wrong about everything, anti-nature as instinct. German decadence as philosophy. This is Kant.
It's pronounced Goethe,
I was gonna
I
say,
believe.
Oh wait, what is?
you said goeth. The E at the end of a German word makes an A sound.
Oh, that's sneaky. I didn't know that.
That's all right. But yeah, overall, like he's getting into sort of like the metamorphosis here, almost like he does in the beginning of Zarathustra, but like the camel. Like I have these burdens, or maybe I'm not. I don't know. Like my
Um,
virtue, that I just have all these things I just believe, and I just. But you're just sort of just it's not real virtue. You're just doing what you're told. Or maybe I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong.
I don't know enough about Zarathustra
Oh,
to
okay.
comment on that, unfortunately.
I'm saying there's a part where he gets into like the camel, the lion, and the child, and this to me looks like the camel to me, but
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair comparison.
okay. Like virtue is just like uh the
It
virtue is that I
becomes
do
no
what he
virtue
says.
when
Yeah, like
when
I have
it's
virtue.
someone else's.
It's really is like almost like a slave morality. It's
Yeah.
and I think it's I don't know if this he wrote this after Zarathustra. I'm pretty sure, so I think he might be like elaborating on it.
Yeah. I think this is like the last major one. I think
Hmm.
Contra Wagner was after this, but that's like a collection more than like its own thing.
Yeah, I think this book was supposed to be a part of a
I think
4-part set or 3-part set.
Yeah, three-part set.
was Nietzsche contra Wagner even I need to double check if it was even published. It might have
I think
been.
that in this like the preface for this book, the they talk about like how it was like kind of all published like at around the same time. So I think it was before he went like, insane and whatnot. Um
I think this
s-
doubles. I think he like doubles down here on like the Kant hate with like what do you call it, deontology, or like Kant's like morals, like a categorical imperative, where you're like I have duty. Like he said, nothing destroys you more than this sense of duty. Like I'm automated in this duty. Like you're not really being moral or virtuous at all.
yes, he's definitely going like the opposite route where you can't rely on authority to tell you what your duties are.
Yeah, yeah. And then I keep jumping to the next chapter, but he doubles down on that part again on 12.
Yeah,
Yeah, decadence specifically here, the way that he tends to talk about decadence is the turning of the instincts against the body and sort of against each other, where the instincts become scattered as the instincts go against the body. So if you're taking on other people's, you know, virtues as as your own, as your burden, you're necessarily in a state of decadence.
yeah. I mean, it's almost I don't know if I can confidently say this because I don't know enough about Freud, but it almost feels like sublimation, right? Like you take like the no, I don't know if I want to make that comment because I don't know if I don't know.
No,
Is it
I can see like it's like a Lacan thing, like a. I also don't know much about Lacan, but like a big other or like the master signet. Like, here's the authority that's got like the real answers, and I need to just like conform to that. And you said like the thing about decadence. I think last time we were confused about the definition, so that's good you brought it up.
yeah. So it is like very much like the body like working against itself, or at least like getting some like resistance, I guess.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find the quote, but I can pull it up.
I really could see the Klazowski coming out in here now that I've been going along with that series too. Like
Oh yeah, Klosowski is an excellent reader of Nietzsche.
that like totally changes my, because this is like the second time I've read this now, and this really is like shaping it.
I'm also curious about like the reference to the French Revolution here. Kind of don't really understand what he was going for.
I don't have my own PDF pulled up, so let me look at that.
Can you read that like few sentences again?
Oh yeah, wasn't it Kant who saw the French Revolution as the transition from the inorganic to the organic form of the state? Didn't he ask himself whether there was an event that could be explained only by a well, actually, I don't know if that. I think it's only this sentence that's like about the. Wasn't it Kant who saw the French Revolution as a transition from the inorganic to the organic form of the state? Is it kind of saying like that it's like he's once again having like there's a real form of the state and there's the form that it was taking on before the French Revolution. So he's kind of like there's like an ideal version of the state that it wasn't like before, or something along those lines. But I don't really know what he's
Yeah,
getting
I'm
at.
just guessing that it's had something to do with like pre-enlightenment monarchies or something, or like the more like Nietzsche's like maybe trying to be pro aristocratic or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
so no, it's not exactly pro-aristocratic here. It's criticizing this idealism of this idea of the French Revolution being this big move from the inorganic, right? This would be when he's talking about the organic, he's talking about like a life process with sort of human will at the center, right? I think
Josh,
I'm going to mute here. There's a bunch of noise coming through. I don't know. I can unmute you if you need, but it was very garbled.
probably on speakerphone or something on accident. I did that last time on accident.
Where was I?
The French Revolution.
on
Oh,
organic versus inorganic.
yeah. I would read this as I mean, there's a lot of things you could read into this. It's kind of hard to say because there's a specific discourse going on. Also, like he might be referencing Rousseau and the state of nature. Um,
Mm.
this idea that basically the French Revolution is the process by which the state of nature sort of returns to civilized life. But I don't know. I
I wonder if that's almost even like. I mean, he doesn't know Marx, but like Marx is, as far as I'm aware, is like. Uh, Never mind. I'm way off. Never mind.
so the inorganic form of the state also makes me think of the what's his name? The Clockwork. I just woke up. The he's like one of the arch conservatives. Let's see.
Are you maybe thinking of like Hobbes?
Yes, I am thinking of Hobbes. It might be a commentary on Hobbes as well, because Hobbes sees the state as something very I mean, he sees the human and the state as something very mechanical, right? All of these are like mechanistic, um, sort of like he describes like a piece of clockwork, right? Um, so there could be an element of that as well, where there's like this dichotomy between the mechanistic and the organic.
I can
But
kind of see
it's
that.
hard to say without further footnote or
I well,
so
I
yeah,
think
because
actually
the
that
following line,
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
he
yeah.
ask himself whether there was an event that could be explained only by a moral predisposition in humanity?
And then he says the
So
answer is
yeah,
the revolution, right?
right. And so in this sense, it's sort of again commenting back on like I was talking about the sort of uh, area of putting sort of human will first, right? And it being a lively process rather than a mechanistic one.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
You could say a flux.
What?
A flux.
What things? I I don't think I'm not sure you could say a flux for any of
No,
this.
I'm jumping way ahead. Yeah, I'm jumping way ahead to
Okay.
like I'm jumping like 2 centuries ahead. Um, not the, okay. He says Königsbergian Chinadom or Chineseness.
Oh, yeah, I
What
was
is
gonna
what is
Yeah,
that
ask.
so
supposed to mean?
Königsberg is where Kant is from. He refers to him as like the man from Königsberg,
Okay.
some other
What
things
is
like
the
that sometime.
Chineseness or Chinadom?
Yeah, so in his that's sort of about this like the way he talks about China is in a state of sort of like surrender to bureaucracy and the bureaucratization of life, the sort of the management of life,
Hmm. I get,
where
yeah.
people are he sees them as sort of being submissive to the sort of bureaucratic functioning of the state, right?
Yeah, okay, that makes sense with the French Revolution thing then, like this like
Right.
bureaucracy. Oh, okay.
Whether that's a
Oh,
fair characterization, we can is sort of more of a historical question, but that's the way that
Yeah,
Nietzsche, talks and thinks about it, is sort of,
yeah.
this orientalized notion
That
of
sounds like such a 1800s thing to say.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Chinadom. Anyways. Okay.
okay. Number 12. I will make an exception for a couple of the skeptics, the decent types in the history of philosophy, but the rest of them have no conception of the basic demands of intellectual integrity. They all act like little females, these admiring fans, these prodigies. They think that beautiful feelings constitute an argument, that a heaving bosom is God's bellows, that conviction is a criterion of truth. In the end, Kant even tried, with German innocence, to take this form of corruption, this lack of intellectual conscience, and render it scientific under the concept of practical reason. He invented a special form of reason so that people would not have to worry about it when the sublime command "Thou shalt" is heard. If you stop and think that among almost all people, the philosopher is just a further development of the priestly type, then this legacy of the priest, the art of falling for your own forgeries, will not seem particularly surprising. If you have a holy task like improving, saving, or redeeming mankind, if you carry God in your bosom and serve as the mouthpiece for imperatives issuing from the beyond, then this sort of a mission already puts you outside any merely rational assessment. You are sanctified by a task like this. You are a type belonging to a higher order of things. Why should a priest care about science? He is above all that. And so far, priests have been in control. They have determined the concepts true and untrue. Um, so, I mean, very quickly, I'd like to, he's being, a little, he's saying they act like little females, these admiring fans, these prodigies.
Yeah.
which is
Could someone link the PDF, by the way? I don't think I have that one.
Oh yeah, I can.
What's the translation of the PDF, by the way? Because I have some weird like Italian English thing.
It is the Cambridge one. It is. I think it's Aaron Ridley and something Northam maybe. I don't. I can check
Oh,
actually.
I do actually already have it. Okay, it just wasn't filed correctly.
Okay, I have the Ludovacci one, which I think is
Uh,
not that good.
Ludovici is not great.
Yeah, I got this one as like a cheap, like a discount bookstore one, but I knew it was like not so good, so I'm trying to put notes on my side. Okay, yeah, I'm writing notes.
Yeah, Aaron Ridley and Judith Norman. If you want this exact one,
Okay. Oh yeah, let me.
it's from Cambridge.
Okay.
Cambridge's tended to be all right.
Yeah, Stanford has been very good with genealogy of morals at least. I have a Stanford
Yeah,
one.
Stanford's solid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Where were we? Number
12 on page
12.
51. Yeah, I'm very like
Oh, by the way, you said skeptics. I think he said septics.
is it
Here.
I feel like I looked it up last time and it was just
It's just a
yeah,
spelling
it's
difference.
the
Okay.
same. That's the same thing.
Okay, gotcha.
There is like a septic without a C and that's something else. But yeah. So yeah, this one is interesting. I don't really know what to like.
Oh yeah, apparently it's the proper plural for some reason.
Oh really?
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's odd.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, I think he's just. I mean, this is classic Nietzsche right here. I mean, this is like one of the first things you ever learned about Nietzsche is about the priestly type and all that. Like,
Yeah.
I guess you could say something like he's saying like, if I'm stretching it, he's saying maybe like, are these like really philosophers or are these just preachers? Like, and I think back in 11 when he was talking about Kant, I think there was a little bit of Hegel or something in there, and he was like, maybe that's later on, but oh yeah, he says like maybe like Teutonic, like this just going in on the German idealism again, and like this is really all just Protestantism you're talking about. This is not really uh philosophy, really.
Yeah. I mean I
Well, yeah, I
think when
mean,
you
I wouldn't even say it's necessarily even like here it's a little bit broader than saying it's just Protestantism. Protestantism is sort of the spirit of
Right.
the age and the
Or
nation
it's
that he's
Platonic.
in.
It's just
But
like Platonism again.
um I would say even more than that, it's this process of sort of meaning making and representation through because he's saying basically turning the feelings into uh sort of a religious argument, right? The beautiful feeling constitutes an argument that a heaving
Mm.
bosom is God's bellows. So it's this idea of taking experience and turning it into something divine, taking something human that you are experiencing, in your human life, and saying this is God's, right? This is of God. This is
Is that almost like
beyond
Schopenhauer's?
beyond
Oh,
me, right?
yeah.
It's beyond the human.
Is it almost like the philosophy of being right, where it's like you're not really looking for like the truth, trademark, but like you're sort of just using. I mean, that's more like tricks that you can use in arguing, but like the
Um,
the point of view someone's going to come from is just how they feel, really, not like some object. Here's the real truth. Not that that is even really a thing, but
I yeah, I mean, I think the issue here is claiming that there is a real truth, that the feelings
yeah.
and the physiology and the, life place that you're in, that any individual person is in, constitutes a truth above themselves.
Like the
That's the
subjectivity
issue
is
here.
the objective.
It Yes, it's the thing above yourself that you claim uh, when the process is fundamentally still one of the human life process, of your physiology,
Oh yeah, I see. He says
of your own
large,
existence.
beautiful things as arguments. Okay. Is this so? Is there like a? Do you think there's like more of a theme in all these like early? I know later on he gets into like Buddhism. Do you think these earlier chapters all have like this is like a really a big? He's going in on the idealism, German idealism a lot.
Um, I would say he's sort of going in on Christianity a lot, and German idealism is an outgrowth of Christianity, right?
Okay.
Especially Protestantism.
Okay. I hope I'm not asking annoying questions. I'm sure it's
No, it's okay. Don't worry.
been like forever since I read this.
I I think the Kieza part, like the priest, the art of falling for your own forgeries, right? Like it's I think, pretty important. Like the people we saw, they don't, they're not doing it like on purpose and like deceiving people. This is just, for them, this is like, like they're also buying into it. It's not like I don't know, like in I don't know what word to use there, but I hope that made like some sense.
Yeah, that does. This is one of those books where you could, if you had like a reactionary point of view, it would really come off like totally wrong.
Yeah, this is, I think like a lot of his later ones are very much like, I
Definitely.
can't imagine possibly reading it with like and getting like a reactionary reading.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
August, would you like to do number 13?
Sure.
Okay.
Let us not underestimate the fact that we free spirits, already constitute a revaluation of all values, a living declaration of war on and victory over all old concepts of true and untrue. The most valuable insights are the last to be discovered, but methods are the most valuable insights. All the methods, all the presuppositions of our present scientific spirit have been regarded with the greatest contempt for thousands of years. They barred certain people from the company of decent men. These people were considered, quote, enemies of God, unquote, despisers of the truth, or possessed. As scientific characters, they were Chandala. We have had the whole pathos of humanity against us. Its idea of what truth should be, of what serving the truth should entail. Every thou shalt has been directed against us. Our objectives, our practices, our silent, cautious, distrustful nature, all of this seemed totally unworthy and despicable. In the end, and in all fairness, people should ask themselves whether it was not really an aesthetic taste that kept humanity in the dark for so long. People demanded a picturesque effect from the truth. They demanded that the knower make a striking impression on their senses. Our modesty is what offered their taste for the longest time. Oh, offended their taste for the longest time. And didn't they know it? These strutting turkey cocks of God.
Hmm. Um. I definitely see Hegel in there. Like they want this one big perfect picture, and he's like, no, that's not this one objective high thing. That's like totally beautiful, the absolute. That's not a thing. He's saying, I think.
Well, Hegel Hegel would be a part of German idealism, and as he sort of talked about, an outgrowth
Oh yeah, I'm saying he's like
Uh,
dissing Hegel here. Almost.
um,
I could just see the connection there.
yes, but not only. I would say, like, I wouldn't
Okay.
even necessarily say that Hegel is the center of who he's dissing here. He's dissing sort of this religious aspect of
The totality of okay.
believing in like a greater sort of explanation of existence that puts us at the center and puts, as he's saying, it's the sort of the modesty is what offended their taste for the longest time. That think about the debates over heliocentrism, right? The idea that God put us at the center of the galaxy or of the solar system, right? Well, I don't even know what the term would be, anachronistic, but yeah, that God put us at the center and that everything's revolving around the earth, right? And it's this sort of immodest, like, we are the center of the universe sort of mentality, right? God created the universe for man, God created the earth for man. All these ideas that place us at the center of things. I think that's
Yeah, this thing can't possibly be true because it just totally goes against my taste of believing in this religion.
Well, it's more that it kind of like devalues them, right, in their own eyes, right? Like
yeah,
they
that
get
it's
a sense of
that it's a mark.
importance. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That it's a mark against something that it doesn't fulfill these sort of uh like desires for this greater order and purpose and things in the universe. I think even the idea of like purpose, right? It just generally in the universe. You could talk about it in terms of even sort of like Buddhist reincarnation stuff, all sorts of stuff. The idea that there's sort of this ordered purpose to things.
Like a
Not that
telos.
all Buddhists believe this. Yes, yes, exactly. It's anti-teleology.
Is
That,
it
that that's
like
which is
good?
very wide sweeping. Of course, right?
Yeah, just like total. Mm, okay, I'll save that question for later then. Okay, I'll wait. But ultimately, oh, he's saying there's like no one ultimate the thing,
Yeah,
and like here's what to do about it.
exactly. Yeah.
That doesn't exist at all. Yeah. Okay. Is that the point of that sentence, or am I just that's part of the whole thing?
Which sense?
I'm at the sense of the aphorism chapter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a fair characterization.
Yeah, I think so. We have changed our minds. We have become more modest in every way. We have stopped deriving humanity from spirit, from divinity. We have stuck human beings back among the animals. We see them as the strongest animals because they are the most cunning. One consequence of this is their spirituality. On the other hand, we are also opposed to a certain vanity that reemerges here too, acting as if human beings were the great hidden goal of animal evolution. Humans are in no way the crown of creation. All beings occupy the same level of perfection. And even this is saying too much. Comparatively speaking, humans are the biggest failures, the sickliest animals who have strayed the most dangerously from their instincts. But of course, and in the spirit of every and in spite of everything, the most interesting animal as well. As far as animals are concerned, it was Descartes who, with admirable boldness, first ventured the idea that they could be seen as machina. The whole of physiology has been working to prove this claim. We are even logically consistent enough to not exclude humans, as Descartes would. To the extent that human beings are understood at all these days, they are understood as machines. People were once endowed with free will as their dowry from a higher order of things. Today we have taken even their will away, in the sense that we do not see it as faculty anymore. The old word will only serves to describe a result, a type of individual reaction that necessarily follows from a quantity of partly contradictory, partly harmonious stimuli. The will does not affect anything, does not move anything anymore. People used to see consciousness, spirit, as proof that humanity is descended from something higher, that humanity is divine. People were advised to become perfect by acting like turtles and pulling their senses inside themselves, cutting off contact with worldly things and shedding their mortal shrouds. After this, the essential element would remain, the pure spirit. We are more sensible about all this too. We see the development of consciousness, spirit, as a symptom of precisely the relative imperfection of the organism, as an experimenting, a groping, a mistake, as an exertion that is sapping an unnecessarily large amount of strength away from the nervous system. We deny that anything could be made perfect as long as it is still being made conscious. Pure spirit is a pure stupidity. When we discount the nervous system and the senses, the mortal shroud, we miscount, nothing more. There's a lot going on there.
It's like, well, so nature doesn't exist to make us. We just are here.
Yes.
And
Yeah, that's why I
this is
think that anti-teleological stuff is also why
yeah.
you mentioned earlier, like how a reactionary could read into this. Part of that is because uh, l- little, I think, like bits, and some of it can be, you know, directly how Nietzsche sort of is in talks. Some of it is also translation stuff. I have issues sometimes with, but
Mhm.
sometimes the nuance of something gets lost in translation. But anyway, um, the anti-teleological understanding goes against basically all, or yeah, all sort of reactionary mindsets because all of them rely on sort of a should model, right?
Can I ask you? Do you think that like so? Am I wrong? First off, in saying that the Platonic is like the base of that, and
Well,
that's
yeah,
is
I
a
was about to say this whole thing is
primary like
anti-Plato.
is like Plato like like the first fascist almost like
Um, I'd be
and
very
that's like
careful
yeah, that's a pretty
applying
extreme thing
those
to
kind
say
of
then.
terms retroactively. I
Okay.
think Plato, especially because so much of this stuff is like, arguably
It's like a historical term, fascist.
there's
It's like
there's religious stuff. Fascist is not the term that I would use, but
yeah.
he's the first modern essentialist, if you want to go with that.
Okay.
Well, it's important to distinguish Plato as he was like an ancient Greek versus the Plato that comes to be in the medieval philosophers interpreting
Mm,
him, starting from a
Yes.
perspective of what their
blasphemous.
God is. And Plato may not be particularly essentialist in his original form. It's possible that his forms were actually more like alive than we generally interpret them nowadays. Nowadays, we think of them more mathematical, but that's kind of more like applied after the fact as like squishing people like Euclid and Plato together when they may not have been as similar as we generally regard them. But that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's a whole
Mm.
other thing, and also not something I know too much about. But I think it's a uh, I wouldn't necessarily characterize him as a fascist. I think you could characterize him as um, sort of the founder of
Fascist is like a something that comes from like the 20th century, but like as a what?
think of the right word. That's okay.
Can you just call me
Uh,
reactionary in general?
um, I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean, if you, especially when you look at some of his
I mean,
prescriptions about
yeah,
in the Republic about how society should be structured,
yeah,
and again, I don't know a ton about uh, modern Plato scholarship on the
yeah,
the context in which he was prescribing that and stuff. So uh, we can leave that there. But anyway,
yeah. Okay. Well, okay. I don't want to get sidetracked off this piece, but what would you define as somebody who then believes in this like kind of telos? What kind of word would we use then?
uh, teleologist. I don't know, an
Oh,
essentialist
I
in
don't.
some
I
senses.
didn't
It
know if
depends
that's
on
what like.
how they do it.
Okay. Anyway, so then the human. So in this part, does he like does the word decadence come back up? Almost like nature didn't come to make us. Um, and he says like we're like the worst of nature.
Wait, where does
And
decadence?
no, I'm bringing that in myself. I just remember we defined it earlier.
No. Well, I mean, not that I would see.
Well, he
Okay.
does say like humans are the like biggest like failure of animals, right?
Yeah,
Like they turned against themselves.
that's what I was gonna say. Like that would be like you can almost define that as decadence.
Yes, that's talking about decadence. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay. I wasn't quite sure which part you were referring to.
Yeah, and even this is saying too much. Comparatively speaking, humans are the biggest failures, the sickliest animals who have strayed the most dangerously far from their instincts.
I think here he's mostly sort of trying to draw a distinction between the way that a lot of religious and teleological understandings of humans have sort of placed humans at the center of things, and as even some of the ways we modern we talk about it contemporarily is like, oh, humans are sort of like the end point of evolution, and things led to us, as opposed to it being sort of an emergent process with no
Yeah,
sort of end goal, right? And so he's going directly against that, saying, actually, no, humans are sort of an accident with these characteristics that actually behaves very differently to most of life,
Like
and often turns against itself.
I was gonna say like as far as being instinctual, and then we just come up with these like rules and turn against ourselves.
there. I mean, there's a. It's kind of like complicated how we got to this point. I think I want to say in Genealogy of Morals, he says that it began with the like debt relationships, but
Yeah,
I don't know if that's yeah. Oh, okay.
And then there's a part where he talks about Descartes calling animals machina,
I know. Yeah,
um, like they were just like
yeah,
uh,
it is something
like
Descartes did.
void
He
beings.
considered animals to basically be sort of like we were talking about earlier, sort of like almost inorganic, in the sense of
Hmm.
having like a certain like they're sort of operating on like an almost like autopilot level, right? Where there's no emergent anything, where it's just it's sort of a way that people like kind of naively talk about instinct, right?
Can you elaborate on that?
Um, yeah. So I guess here, wait. Let's see the line here.
He's saying like animals are just blank, like nothing, and
Yeah, that there's no real like emergent that machina. This sense is sort of like pre-programmed, right? That's sort of the connotation there, right? That they are simply like responding to stimulus with no special input, right?
hmm,
As opposed to humans, which is in this dichotomy, humans who who are the thinking greater things that are above all this, right?
yeah. And then he says we were endowed with free will from a higher order. Like we
Right.
think that
Yes, that's
we're the free thing and the animals are. But is Nietzsche saying that the reverse is the case?
um yeah, so the idea of free will obviously coming from the sort of idea of the soul, the spirit, from God, all these things, right?
Right, as opposed to like necessity or something.
Right.
Right. But then is he saying that the animal is actually the more, we're below the
Today we have
animal?
taken even their will away in the sense that we do not see it as a faculty anymore. I'm not exactly sure on this one. I don't know if he's referring to because you know, like I was mentioning earlier, Hobbes has this idea of how humans work that's mechanistic, right? Like clockwork as well. So I think he could be referring to that here.
I wonder if he's like almost like, because I know he's like such a contrarian sometimes. Maybe sometimes like for its own sake, maybe like talking about pro-slavery and all that, like weird
That
experimental
was
ideas that.
you know, that was like multiple decades earlier, and
Oh yeah. I'm saying like
and
yeah, like
he goes, yeah,
yeah. I'm not
yeah.
saying he actually believed that the whole time. I'm saying like sometimes it seems like he would just be contrarian, but like he's like calling us like humans are like these accidental freaks of nature, and like turning Descartes on its head, being like, no, like that they're not machines. They're like almost better than us. Or that's too much to say.
I don't think Nietzsche would say there's a like real, divide between like animals and humans,
Yeah,
right? Like he
exactly.
wouldn't say
Yeah.
animals like have, they're the ones
Yeah,
with
the
the
issue
soul,
is
they're the
in this
ones,
divide. The issue is in this divide, and in this divide, what it allows us to do, right, is to venerate living sort of not as animals, not as part of a life process, right? To live as pure spirit, as he was saying, right? Spirit, divinity, to 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 forsake the body, right? That's sort of the fundamental thing.
Um, Pure spirit is pure stupidity. He's saying that's
Yeah,
not the case. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. It's this idea of the human being something greater is the very thing, uh, sort of suppressing the human life process here in this setup.
Okay.
So it is that dichotomy itself that's what's producing this.
Okay. Yeah, it goes back to like thinking that we're like special. Like, okay.
Yeah, and a lot of this you could very much tie back to Plato, and
Yeah, that's kind of what's running through the back of my head. I'm trying to put those pieces in with like the telos, the Platonic, and all that. Would you call this the Dionysian then? Like this, like one organic wholeness versus, and then would the Apollonian would be like the that
mm,
hierarchicalness, or no?
it's a difficult topic because the Dionysian takes on different connotations throughout his work throughout time, but like the later Dionysian is the synthesis of the old Apollonian and Dionysian. So it's sort of a difficult question to answer in terms of the language used.
Okay.
Um, I would say, yeah, the sort of the will to truth way of sort of the free, because this is also still connected to this the things we were talking about earlier, right? With uh, the Christian way of looking at things, right?
Right.
And this veneration of spirit over body is related to like the will to truth and the sort of the search for something above the human,
Yeah.
right?
The spirit over body is saying like this world isn't good. I need to go to heaven instead.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that makes so much. Okay. Pure spirit is pure stupidity. That makes so much more sense now.
Okay. Aphorism 15. Uh, okay, this is already looking. Okay, we'll see. In Christianity, morality and religion are both completely out of touch with reality. Completely imaginary causes God, soul, I, spirit, free will, or even an unfree one. Completely imaginary effects sin, redemption, grace, punishment, forgiveness of sins. Contact between imaginary entities God, spirits, soul, and imaginary natural science, procentric, total absence of any concept of natural causes. In imaginary psychology, complete failure to understand oneself, interpretations of pleasant or unpleasant general sensations. For instance, the state of nervous sympathicus, using the sign language of religious moral idiosyncrasy, repentance, the pangs of conscience, temptations by the devil, the presence of God. In imaginary teleology, the kingdom of God, the last judgment, eternal life, the entirely fictitious world can be distinguished from the world of dreams to the detriment of the former, in that dreams reflect reality while Christianity falsifies, devalues, and negates reality. Once the concept of nature had been invented as a counter to the idea of God, natural had to become reprehensible. That whole fictitious world is rooted in hatred of the natural, of reality. It is an expression of a profound sense of unease concerning reality, but this explains everything. Who are the only people motivated to lie their way out of reality? People who suffer from it. But to suffer from reality means that you are a piece of reality that has gone wrong. The preponderance of feelings of displeasure over feelings of pleasure is the cause that fictitious morality and religion, but a preponderance like this provides the formula for decadence. So I mean, I think it's pretty like straightforward. He's talking about like how like Christianity offers like a cure for like from reality, but also the only reason you would need a cure from reality is because you're suffering, and if you're suffering from reality, it's because that piece of reality has gone wrong, right? The only way it could go wrong is from like that decadence that comes from, or at least is exasperated by Christianity. So it's kind of like feeding itself.
This is the one I have like 1,400 notes on the side of. There's like so much in this one.
Oh, by the way, it seems as if Antichrist was actually not published.
It wasn't published.
Well, it was as a manuscript, but it was a private, or it's considered an authored manuscript. But I'm not.
The the Kaufman preface talked about this. It was so it was meant to be like part of a 3-part like series, and but this is like the first part of it, and they were all meant to be published together. So that's kind of why it's short,
Okay.
but it was like completed as far as people know.
Okay. So it was. Yeah. Okay. I'll have to look more into that, but that's okay. We were on.
There's like a piece of reality that's like
Just finished
suffering.
15.
Man, I'm totally lost because my notes just say the pagan on the side, and I don't know what that means. I think I was way more reactionary in the past than I realized.
Oh, I guess
Let's see. What page are we on? Let's see. Wait.
54. We just finished number 15.
The way the Antichrist is structured on the Nietzsche source is very different seeming.
What are you
I'm
looking at?
looking at the Nietzsche source, the German.
Oh, okay.
Oh, for some reason it's showing the wrong thing. I think that's weird. Being very buggy.
Okay, so there's a part where it says like something like who is the type of man who escapes reality through lies? Is that the priestly type here?
Well, that is like everyone, right?
Okay.
Like well, I guess not like technically everyone, but it is the great majority, right? It's the herd.
I guess the
I think
priestly
that's
type
fair
is
to
someone
say.
who is preaching those is promoting those things.
Yes.
Okay.
Who are the only people motivated to lie their way out of reality? People who suffer from it, right? So there's like in genealogy of morals, that would be like the like slave morality, right? Like they're suffering from like their current like predicament, so they basically make up like a whole whole set of rules that actually paint like the people who are benefiting off of them. Well, that's a bad way to explain it. Let me.
Like the
But
master doesn't work, so like being lazy is a sin now.
um potentially, or the like a example would be like with greed, right? Like if you're like the slave class isn't able, like they're not able to eat like whenever they want and whatever they want, so they paint the like their masters as bad because he is able to eat as much as he wants, right? They say that he's choosing to be greedy while we're choosing to be
Yeah,
poor and civilized.
they're acting as if there's a will to that force. Am I right here? Is this
Yeah.
like willpower almost? Like thinking that there's a
Uh,
will attached. The
well,
willpower is
it's
like a
resentment. It's they're
something.
they're
Okay, yeah,
ascribing
that's what it
they're
was.
ascribing they're creating a morality that takes what's sort of already there, right? The
Yep,
situation in which they have no power, right? It comes from a lack of power to change the state of things, right?
that's exactly the word I
And
was. Yeah.
okay,
No, go ahead, go ahead. Because that's what I was actually
so
what I was gonna ask.
for some reason Nietzsche's source seems to be down. I've not experienced that before, so
Uh,
getting a look at the German. I might try like Gutenberg or something. Let's see.
so they're like people who suffer in reality are then like further suffering because of the resentment or resentment. That's like keeps feeling it. You were saying something like that when you finished it.
It's kind of like a cycle that, I
Yeah,
mean, they feel, more powerful. It does, it does have a material effect, obviously, it does help, but they're very much like screwing themselves and everyone else over.
It can kind of depend. Nietzsche talks about it in several different ways. There are ways in which he considers it incredibly clever and a use of the power that one does have as a member of the herd. There's a lot of ways he talks about it, but in
Yeah.
general, yeah.
in my old notes, I have this chapter is called Christian Lies, and I have so many notes and I can't even remember what these mean.
The imaginary causes, God, soul, I,
Yeah,
free will,
imaginary
spirit.
effects, imaginary beings, imaginary natural history.
Yeah. And let's
Yeah,
see.
basically just like all this like fake world. Like, so is it this? There's like the being is suffering, and like so like is he like going back to almost even the last part? Like, um, we're like the worst of nature. We're the part of nature that's like suffering in its own. Uh,
Impotence.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the source of the suffering then? Like why? Or that's like maybe the wrong question to ask because maybe that's the teleological Platonic question.
Here,
Well,
I'm trying to look at the German here just to get a
Is it just
peek.
because we can have resentment?
Think he talks about this in other places, but with my understanding of it is his general notion of like the will to power is like a fundamental force that exists, which can be frustrated, and it is
Hmm.
kind of the frustration of that desire, or will rather, that ends up propagating suffering up throughout the system in question.
Yeah.
Does that have to do with some of the stuff in the Klosowski reading where it's like the ends of the force, like we think our thoughts are our thoughts, but they're not really. It's just like that's like the end point of these forces, like the end, like the
Yeah,
foam of
that's.
the
I mean, that's
wave.
a part of it.
Okay. And so the will to power is expressing its own frustration through us? Question mark.
I would say yes. That would make sense to me. Yeah.
Okay. And we think that, and then we develop resentment because we think that it's our own thing, or we ascribe these false wills, but it's just this. We're just like these tools of the world.
Yeah, he talks about the will to power sort of turning in on itself, right?
Okay.
Coming to revile itself, things like that. Yeah.
Does he? When does he get into more into that? Because that's. Is there a part? Is there a book he gets into that?
Beyond Good and Evil and Genealogy of Morals would be the central ones for resentment.
Okay. Sweet.
I think we're good to move on to 16. This is probably going to be the last one for today, though.
I wanted to double check some of his stuff because let's see. Where was that's okay. I'll just do this for myself because some of his discussion on the like in Twilight of the Idols and other places, he sometimes makes important distinctions between the real world, the actual world, and the um, uh, uh, world of appearances and things like that. So I'll try to look more in that on the German, but it's not super important for this.
That would be. Oh, so you think there might be like different words that he's using that are more consistent?
I'm not sure. That's why I wanted to check.
Okay. Yeah, that would be interesting. Okay, 16. Critique of a critique of the Christian idea of God will necessarily lead to the same conclusion. A people that still believe in itself will still have its own God. In the figure of this God, a people will worship the conditions that have brought it to the fore, its virtues. It projects the pleasure it takes in itself, its feeling of power, into a being that it can thank for all of this. Whoever has wealth will want to give. A proud people needs a God to sacrifice to. On this supposition, religion is a form of gratitude. People are grateful for themselves, and this is why they need a God. This sort of God has to be able to help and to harm, has to be able to be a friend and an enemy. People admire him as God, as good, but also as bad. The anti-natural castration of a God into a God of pure goodness would hold no attraction at all. Evil gods are just as necessary as the good ones. After all, people do not exactly owe their own existence to tolerance and love of humanity. Why bother with a God who does not know about anger, revenge, envy, scorn, cunning, violence? Who might not even know the exquisite ardour of victory and destruction? Nobody would understand a God like this. What would be a point of having him for a God? Of course, when a people is destroyed, when it feels that its belief in the future, its hope for freedom, is irretrievably fading away, when it becomes conscious of subjugation as its first principle of utility and conscious of the virtues of the subjugated as the conditions of its preservation, then its God will necessarily change as well. He will become modest and full of fear. He will cringe in corners and recommend peace of soul, forbearance, and end to hatred and love of his friends and enemies. He will constantly moralize. He will creep into the crevices of every private virtue. He will be a god for one and all, a private and cosmopolitan god. He used to represent a people, the strength of a people, all the aggression and thirst for power in the soul of a people. Now he is just a good God. In the end, gods have no other choice. Either they are the will to power, in which case they will still be the gods of a people, or they are powerless in the face of power, and they will necessarily become good.
It's
Yeah,
a
this
lot.
gets into a lot of the things we were talking about resentiment and
Yeah.
and how necessarily there's not really for Nietzsche because as we were talking about, it's sort of a materialist understanding, almost in a Marxist materialist sense of God being uh, sort of an outgrowth of material forces, right? That necessarily the belief in God cannot simply be, and the structure of thought of the Christian God cannot simply be dispelled as uh, you know, ideology, right? It can't just be like an illusion that you simply do away with when you present someone with a new set of facts, right? There has to be a change in the conditions that are producing their subjectivity, right? Because the it's the belief in God is a direct outgrowth of their their life process, right?
Right.
I mean, you can even see this in sort of like uh I mean, you could talk about this in relation to like new atheists who then go back on fucking Christian morality and talk
Yeah.
about being culturally Christian. You could talk about it in relation, or yeah, um,
The
or even ones who don't talk about being culturally Christian, who talk about objective morality and all these things. But also, you could talk about it in relation to like uh, spiritualistic uh, notions that do a lot of the same things as God, right? It's the sort of the form over the um, it's the structure over the uh, name or sort of surface level differences because the structure is fulfilling a role.
Yeah. So I mean in it's like this. You don't have to go to church or be a or call yourself a Christian or anything to buy into like the same kind of and kind of produce like the same like mentality and the same and speak the
Yeah,
same way a Christian would.
yeah. Schopenhauer. He calls Schopenhauer like the most Christian philosopher.
Yeah.
Schopenhauer considered himself an avowed atheist, but in the way that he understood life and sort of the teleology of life, Nietzsche considers him basically like the most Christian because he basically believed in like concepts analogous to original sin and guilt and pity, all these things that Nietzsche goes against, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about that before. Like people who you were saying like atheists who still subscribe to like they don't like they got rid of the God part, but they still have all the ethics and morals that go along with it.
Yeah, exactly. But also in this first part, this read very in terms of like talking about the sort of Spinoza's critique of God, right? Of God as having a will, of having free will, right? Spinoza critiques the idea of God as anything more than necessity, or well, technically, it's more like anything less than necessity, right? Yeah, that's a better wording. Anything less than necessity. That God could be other than He is.
You said like the beginning was like I'm curious like because you said like less so now. Like what part was not Spinoza's?
Oh, it's not that it was like anti-Spinozist, but it's just the sort of the more materialist section on sort of gods as outgrowths of sort of the necessity for belief. Um, I'm not sure I would super consider that Spinozist, but it's not
Okay.
like anti-Spinoza. It's just not. The first part was incredibly Spinoza, so I was just like, this part's very Spinoza. This part's not necessarily as much.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So you like, why bother with a god who does not know about anger, revenge, envy, scorn, cunning, violence? That part and all this stuff about the evil gods and good gods and stuff very very much feels like it's working off of Spinoza. and the idea of like prayer and gratitude and all these things. eh, Uh, see, the a God of pure goodness would hold no attraction at all, right? The sort of the God that is that's sort of what Spinoza is working with, right? A God of pure, a God that he's taking seriously the idea of uh, sort of pure goodness, pure omnipotence, right? And so that God necessarily is working by necessity. It doesn't have the sort of the human whims and fancies that people would ascribe to the God that is necessarily an outgrowth of their own whims, fancies, necessities, needs, all these things, right? The
The
passions.
the way I kind of read it, and maybe this is, you would agree too, but is he saying like there is no you like as far as like utility goes, there's no reason to prescribe like a totally good God, right? Because part of why you want the God is to be able to have like punishment against like people who are supposedly like wronging you.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a wild take on this one, honestly, and I hope it's not weird, but like, I thought this was about like Jews almost, because there's a part where he
I
talks
mean,
about.
it's related to it, but
Okay, okay,
so like he talks so at least per my understanding, there is not original sin in Judaism.
right.
Uh, there's not a telos of redemption in Judaism. Um, and so and even early Judaism, especially per my understanding, I'm obviously not a scholar or well particularly well versed in religious history, but my understanding is you know the Yahweh was a adapted from or likely adapted from a war god of
Yep,
uh,
that's
and
exactly what I was gonna get into. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
go ahead,
and
go
and
ahead.
the
Yeah, like
idea
Canaanite.
of the sort of the god of a people that sort of is the spirit of the people and of their power is sort of what he's getting at here, right? and and he talks about how some sort of the early Jewish religion does, at least he sees it as embodying this more, right?
Yeah, is like the proto Jew, like the Canaanites who became the Jews,
Mm.
because the Exodus is probably not real at all. Um, they
i'm
would
i'm
have
not, I don't
they
know.
would have these like little wooden pillar altars that they were more nomadic, and then this became as they became more cosmopolitan, and then they moved into Jerusalem. It became the one temple, and there was a piece in here about the cosmopolitan God, and then like becoming the God becomes the God for all.
Mm,
And
okay.
this is like a weird connection, but like that I see that going all the way to like Protestants in like Alabama. Like this is the same cosmopolitan God. But yeah, I don't know. I'm making a stretch here, but
Could you elaborate on that? What do you mean?
I
uh
almost like when I do like a bunch of like reading. I just remember that from like so long ago, and that's like immediately popped into my head. Like it's no longer the God of like. Let's see if we can read that part. Um, he will be. I'm sorry, I'm dyslexic, so I read bad. Um, he will creep into
Me
every
too.
crevice. Oh, okay. He will creep into every crevice of every private virtue. He will be. He will be a God for one and all, a private cosmopolitan God. Um, I mean, Nietzsche doesn't say this here, but I'm making connections to like
Oh yes, yes, I see what you mean. So
Reformation and
it's
all that.
here, it's about the universalism, right?
Yeah,
Where Yahweh goes from a sort of a god of a people,
right.
a god of a certain group of people, where, like I was saying, it's sort of a direct outgrowth of their power, right? The glory of the culture of the society is sort of is the glory of Yahweh to a much more universalized God. I think I see what you mean. What you mean
Yeah,
there.
And like, so you have like the pagan Jews to Jews to Christians, and then like Protestantism is like the most like let's say horizontal form of that. Like it keeps getting more horizontal. Does that make sense? And like
Maybe.
I'm gonna read the Bible myself and not have the Pope tell me, and then like, well, the Pope is getting this from what was this other culture's things. They're adding Platonism into this Jewish stuff, and then that still comes from even a more further paganism. Does that make? I'm not really good at explaining what I'm thinking right now. I almost want to do an essay on it
Sure.
to get my
Yeah.
thoughts out. Sorry,
I was having a
but
little trouble following at the end there,
yeah,
but
I'm
I
sorry.
think
I can see the
I think I
connection,
got the
but
general
I don't have the words for it.
gist of the
Yeah.
first part at least.
Yeah.
In like Bruno Latour's book, We Were Never Modern, and he kind of talks about I'm not like too well read on the book, but he kind of talks about there being like a God who's like ever present, and also like it's kind of hard to explain. I might let me see if I
Yeah.
can find it
Latour's
real
a
quick.
good. I mean, I think I'd maybe have. I think he's a good reader of Nietzsche. I think, or at least a productive reader of Nietzsche, in terms of how he utilizes some of the things around Nietzsche. But yeah, I often tend to think of Latour in some of these sections as well.
Yeah, let me. I found a copy of the book, so let me pull it up really quick. So this is the fourth. This is chapter 2.9 of We Were Never Modern. Actually, I can share my screen, I think. Let me try doing that. Here. Hope that's should be visible. Okay.
Hmm.
It was necessary, however, to avoid seeing an overly perfect symmetry between the two guarantees of the Constitution. I should probably explain what that is, but I think it'll make sense even if I don't. So, a fourth guarantee had to settle the question of God by removing him forever from the dual social and natural construction, while leaving him presentable and usable. Nevertheless, Hobbes and Boyle's followers succeeded in carrying out this task, the former by ridding nature of any divine presence, the latter by ridding society of any divine origin. Scientific power no longer needed the hypothesis. As for statesmen, they could fabricate the mortal god of the Leviathan without troubling themselves further about the immortal god. So it kind of like he's talking about like the you can kind of like split God into like many ways, like depending on what's useful at the time, and you can make a God who's private and a God who's all encompassing and universal, and you can do all sorts of things as needed. If that, I don't know,
Yeah.
did that, yeah.
The private God is like, that's like, that's kind of what I was
That's the
getting at with the
Protestant.
Protestant thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Jesus is my best friend kind of thing, like personal savior. I can just see the historical pattern, like like I think Nietzsche's dead on here, because like this, like if you study the history of like Christianity and all that, this like pattern just keeps happening, and it's like it goes all the way back to even pre-Christians. So it's like this like force is like, it's like more like there's like some force there. Uh, would I call it a will to power? I don't know, but uh, that is that's playing out.
I think with that, I think we're pretty much done, unless there's anything anyone wants to talk about.
I want to apply this whole everything we read today to like more historical stuff, because I think he's like, I think his philology, or what would you call it, philology, is like so good.
Have you? I would really recommend reading Genealogy of Morals.
Yeah,
It's a
I'm
good one for
gonna
that.
try to
Yeah,
speed around that before the next one.
yeah. Also,
But
I have been like sick and congested, so I hope it wasn't like super obvious.
no, I didn't even notice.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay.
I
Yeah.
hope I wasn't like, my questions were weird. I was hoping I was maybe being a good foil for the back and forth to explain things.
You were very helpful. It's nice having a third person.
Okay, yeah, I was like, I think my questions are weird, but hopefully it's helping.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.